Today I'm going to be showing you my workflow in the app Snapseed. You can utilize this app on your iPhone, your iPad, your Android device, and I'm not going to be going over every single step and tool in this program. I'm just going to be showing you my workflow on how to crop and clean up a photo, maybe make a photo lighter, maybe do some artistic things to the photo. This is just my workflow and process when I post to my Instagram account. Okay, let's get started. First, let's go to Open Device and go to your camera roll and select the photo that you'd like to use. I've chosen this photo, which I thought was a little on the dark side. I did not take this photo. My sister took this photo, and I decided to kind of play around with it and try to clean it up for her. So let's get started with and click the Use button at the top of the screen. So in the program, I'm going to go to the Tools area, and there's tools and filters that you can apply to your photos. I like to start off by maybe adding a little bit of detail to my photos, and I am going to go to the first slider here, which is structure, and slide until I get about where I think, is starting to get some detail. Now I'm going to go up to sharpening, go down to sharpening, and start bringing in some details there. You can always hit the little tool at the very top to flip back and forth. At this point you probably can't tell a big difference in the details, but a few of, like the grass and the grain of the wood, is starting to pop a little bit more. So I'm going to click the check mark, and now the next tool that I like to go to is the Tune Image tool. In here, there are a whole host of things: brightness, contrast, saturation, ambience, highlights, shadows, and warmth. And I go through the list and decide if that photo needs those areas. So in brightness, I definitely want to brighten it up a little, but I know that the sky is going to be affected by that. Contrast, bring out a few more details. And you see I'm not going real high with the numbers. If I go drastic, that's way too much at 100. So I just kind of play around and, see, I like things a little bit more saturated. Ambience is really going to bring out some of those shadow areas. And if we go way extreme to 100, you see it really almost changed the time of the day of this photo. So this ambience I'm going to leave maybe at like 50 at the moment and see where we go from there. Highlights I'm going to actually bring down so that the sky maybe isn't so bright. And then shadows also brings out more of the shadows as well, but it can get a little bit more muddier than ambience does. But sometimes you want to play, maybe you want to adjust the shadows and go back to the ambience and say, okay, now the ambience, maybe I don't need as much, or maybe now I need a bit more shadow work. Those two I kind of play with back and forth. And then the warmth, because it's outdoor and it's sunset time, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. If you go toward the right, you're going to add warm tones. And if you go toward the left, with your finger, you're going to get cool tones. So you can totally change the atmosphere of a photo. I like to add, like I said, for outdoor sunset, just a little bit of warmth, but not a lot. And I'm going to click the OK button and the check mark, And if we want to see before and after what we started with, oops, I'm so sorry. You click on the photo itself. So you can see I'm clicking the after. We've already made quite a bit of changes to this one. There's another tool that I want to point out, the brush tool. It's a little more challenging to work with, but sometimes if you have an area that really, and let's just drag over this sky area and see if we can just darken that up a bit. That already looks a lot better. And then if you wanted to play with it, you could bring the exposure up maybe 0.7 and get this barn right here. And maybe this barn here, and just highlight the two barns. That already looks so much better. So, I mean, you're getting so much more detail now. So I'm going to click the check mark to accept. I'm going to highlight over. I like to do this a lot to kind of see before and after. It just already, has a much more interesting look to it. There's another tool if I kind of wanted to get a little bit more grass showing. I'm sorry, not the brush tool, but you can X out of a tool and go to the healing brush tool. And the trick with this tool is that you can use your fingers to zoom in. And I'm going to brush right along this dirt right here, and let's see what happens. Oh, look, we already got some grass filled in. I'm not going to do the whole area, but this one does have an undo button, whereas the last tool with the just brush does not have undo yet. So let's use our fingers and zoom back out and see, I mean, maybe you do want to try to get rid of all of that brown. Let's try it. So it may take a few strokes to get this looking correct. You may have to zoom in some more. It really likes to be zoomed in to get these details here. Let's zoom back out. Maybe we can get it to... Well, we're starting to get there. Grass is so forgiving, thank goodness. Maybe fix that little spot right there. Great. Okay, well, I don't like that, but I'm going to zoom in and just touch. Sometimes this tool is great for that. So, let's just say you had something up in here that you wanted to correct, like getting rid of this little dark spot. You could just click right there, get rid of it. Like I said, zooming in works wonders. And then I'm going to click the accept button, and now we have a whole bunch of grass where we didn't have grass before. So, now I'm starting to think, oh, this, the left side of the grass is looking a little strange now. So we can actually go into our steps here where the number 4 is. Go to the healing and bring the dialog box back up where we were and keep going. And maybe put in, different type of grass here. Hopefully it's going to look natural. You can always hit the undo button if it doesn't. Zoom back out. That's starting to look really natural, that this is how we found this area. So, just don't want it to look like a repeated pattern is all that I'm trying to kind of work on now. So now I'm going to hit the check mark, and boom, now it's all gone. So I'm going to hit the arrow to go back, and let's start working on the next. Now I'm going to move to filters. One of my favorite filters is this HDR scape filter, and people go way overboard with this filter. I like to use it in just a minimum amount to really bring out some detail, saturation, but as you can see where it just starts off with, it remembers the last one that I did, and that one was the people setting. I don't really care nature, people, fine and strong. I really just click on each one of them and decide which one I want to start with. And to be honest, the people one looked like the best one, the cleanest one to me. So I'll go through. We've got filter strength, brightness, and saturation. So filter strength, I'm going to bring it way down to about 14. Brightness, I'm going to actually pull down just a little bit. We were starting to look a little too bright. And saturation is also looking a little too much, but I don't want to pull it down. I don't want to lose too much color. So, I think the brightness still needs to come down some. Okay, let's go from there. Alright, so you can click the check mark and we can do a before and after and see where we're getting. That looks really great so far. So let's go on to my next tool. Drama also brings out, I know I keep saying detail, but they do it in different ways. Drama also can bring out some brightness. So you have to use this tool very limited, just a little bit as well. So there's drama 1, 2, 3, or bright 1 and bright 2, and then dark 1 and dark 2. I almost always use drama 1 and drama 2. Drama 1 probably 95% of the time. So we have filter strength and saturation. So I'm going to bring the filter strength down, and you can come way down on this and it'll still utilize the effect. And then the saturation needs to be boosted back up. Okay, so we can do a before and after and see how like some of the wood tones are a little brighter here. It kind of not really sharpens, but it kind of brightens details a little bit more. So let's click OK. And here's where you can start getting to be a little bit more artistic if you'd like to. I would next click on vintage. Now vintage is supposed to be, sorry, it pulls up my last setting. Vintage is supposed to be obviously trying to make the photo look old, but sometimes I find that it focuses because it puts a little vignette on the picture, that sometimes it'll kind of color the picture. All of these things I do just in moderation and not overdone. So I just click through. See, that's really looking like a 70s photo, isn't it? But I click through, and sometimes I'll go to a filter or tool and I'm like, none of those work for what I'm doing, which I think might be the case here. So far I'm clicking on all of these and nothing is really hitting me, that might be really good. But I kind of like this last one now that I said that, but let's play with it, and if it doesn't work, we can hit the little X and not use it. So this one has brightness, saturation, style strength, and vignette strength. I do find it gives a little too much vignette to start with, so I kind of address the vignette first, as this will affect the darkness or brightness of the photo as well. So here's, a lot of vignette, and then here is almost no vignette. I don't mind having a little bit, kind of give it a little bit of depth and center focus. Now I'll go to brightness and brighten it maybe a little, not too much, just a few steps. Saturation, maybe a few steps. And style strength, I can kind of pull back or go up and just see where we're at. So let's click on the before and after flip at the top. I kind of actually do like that. It did kind of, but I still think there's a little bit too much vignette, so I'm going to bring that down just a few more stops. Okay, great. So I click the check mark. Now, another thing that I sometimes will do in the very beginning, just depending on if I'm cleaning up a photo for somebody else, or if I'm working on it for Instagram. I know Instagram allows, tall and wide photos now, but I've decided to keep my Instagram account as being a square format. So if you want to crop your photo to a square format or any format, you can go to the crop tool. Now I already have mine set to square at the bottom because that's what I usually wind up doing. And you can scroll until you find an interesting composition. This particular photo, I just didn't, the center is a big empty space between the buildings. And so, maybe you want to crop out one of the buildings and bring that down a little. But I think that's going to lose a lot of the interest of this photo. So I am going to hit the X button, but I wanted to show you could crop here. And then I like to go, but to be honest, if you're going to crop into a square, I would do that the very first thing, just because that will affect when you do a vignette or darkening on the edges or something. That will affect if you crop it later, you may crop that effect out. So one last thing I like to do is go into the tune image area again and just do some final tweaking. I could pull up the tune from earlier, but in the steps, but this is kind of my final tuning, and I'm just going to go through the list again on tune image, and I'm going to just brighten it just a touch, and kind of do all of the little things, see what's needed. I think a little less saturation would be good. The ambiance, you can play with going, back to being a little bit on where the shadows are a little darker. But now I feel like the saturation needs to pull back up again. It's interesting how one slider will affect the other sliders. So highlights I'm going to bring still down for the sky a little bit. Shadows, I think we're okay on shadows, but let me just show you at this point, if you just want to bring a few of the darks back in, just a few steps. And then warmth, you can play with, actually think bringing a little of the warmth out made the buildings a little bluer, which I kind of liked, and didn't sacrifice the sky too much. So that is it. And then there are two save features. You can save, which, it describes here what it's going to do, but save will just, I believe, just save over your file on your camera roll. Save a copy saves a copy, but you can come back into Snapseed and edit it some more, or get it, or copy the edit settings to put on a different photo, and then export It's just like saving a brand new photo to your camera roll, and that's the way I usually do it. And if I think I might need the settings, you can go to your steps and to the little three dots at the top right and say copy. And now you've copied those settings that you might want to try on a different photo. I think most photos are different, and I pretty much start from scratch on all photos. But I'm going to hit save and export, and it's doing all of the saving, and it'll be on my camera roll as a brand new photo. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and just have fun with this app. Go in and play with it, and like I said, one slider sometimes makes you think you might need to revisit another slider, or sometimes you have to go back to a filter or tool and rerun it to a few times even, but there's so many other features of this program I didn't touch on, but check out the tutorials on YouTube on how to use Snapseed and learn about all the tools, and just have fun with it. Okay, thank you.